Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Ashened deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck that has some of the coolest artwork in the entire game. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name in the description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Vados. Vados is definitely a 3-of in the build, and this card is absolutely amazing as a boss monster. This card has the ability during the main phase, if this card's in the hand, quick effect, you can actually target a card in the field spell zone to be able to special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field. And if you do special summon this card, it actually has the ability to destroy that card in the field spell zone. Then you get to add to your hand or set an Ashen Continuous Trap from your deck, which is a great effect to get one of our 2 Ashen Continuous Traps set to our side of the field. It also has the ability, if this card is sent from the opponent's field to our graveyard, you destroy all monsters on the field, which is a crazy powerful effect just to help you board wipe the monsters on the field. We then play 3 copies of Priestess. Priestess is definitely a 3-of build because this card is basically the Stratos of the deck. And if Obsidian is actually on the field spell zone, you can special summon this card from your hand, which all of your Ashen monsters actually share that common effect, which is awesome that they're basically all extenders to be able to instantly get them out on your side of the field. But this card also has the ability, if this card is normally special summoned, you can add an Ashen card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is an awesome effect. We then play a single copy of the King. King is definitely a 1-of in the deck, but you only really need a single copy of this card. This card has the ability during your main phase, you can special summon an Ashen monster from your hand, except another copy of this card. Or if your opponent controls a monster with 20 or more attack, you can actually special summon it from your deck instead, which is an insane effect. That basically, if your opponent controls Vados, you get to summon an Ashen monster directly from your deck, which is such a powerful ability. We then play a single copy of Hero. Hero is definitely a 1-of in the build as well, and this card is a really good monster to put on our side of the field, as this card has the ability during the main phase, quick effect, you can actually target a Pyro monster on the field and destroy it. Then, if you destroyed a copy of Vados, by this effect, you can actually place an Obsidian from your deck face up in your field spell zone, which is a really cool ability to instantly help you pop your copy of Vados. We then play a single copy of Spearhead. Spearhead is really good as a 1-of in the build as well, but you only need a single copy of this card as well. But this card is a really cool ability that if your opponent controls a monster with 20 or more attack, you can actually tribute this card and then target a card your opponent controls and return it back to the hand, just helping you bounce cards off the field. We then play a single copy of Shaman. Shaman is definitely a 1-of as well in this build, and this card is really good, but you only need a single copy, just like your copy of King, Hero, and Spearhead, because this card has a really cool ability that lets you target 3 of your Pyro monsters that are banished and or in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, then if you shuffled an Ashen monster, you can actually add an Obsidian from your deck to your hand, which is great to help us get to our field spell while also recycling resources. We then play 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. Unicorn is really good as a 3-of in the build to basically play a Kashtira engine in this deck. And this card has the ability, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, during your main phase, you can add a Kashtira spell from your deck to your hand. And if your opponent activates a monster effect or this card declares an attack, you can look at your opponent's X deck and then banish a monster from it face down, which is an insane effect. Now, some of your Ashen cards actually will lock you out of summoning your Kashtira cards, so you want to make sure that you go for your Kashtira plays first and then go for your Ashen plays, because all of your Ashen cards will say for the rest of the turn. So you basically want to summon out your Kashtira cards first, then go in for your copies of your effects of your Ashen monsters. But it's really cool that you want to go for the Kashtira cards first anyways, because you can't control a monster to be able to special summon them out to your side of the field. But this card is amazing in the deck to be able to basically search out your copy of Birth, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Fenrir. Fenrir is just really good at helping you spot remove cards off the field, and this card is great in the deck as well, as it does have the ability to search another Kashtira monster directly from your deck to your hand, and it also has a great effect to basically just special summon itself to your side of the field if you don't control a monster, just like your copy of Unicorn. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of in the deck as well, basically just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. So, That's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Kashtira Birth. Kashtira Birth is definitely a one-of in the build that you can actually search off your copy of Unicorn, which is why we just play a single copy in the deck. This card actually lets you normal summon a level 7 monster without tributing, and also during your main phase, you can actually special summon one of your non-XZ Kashtira monsters that's banished or in your graveyard. But since your copy of Vados will constantly be popping the field of all monsters on the field, this card is great to help you bring back a Kashtira monster back to your side of the field, which is such a powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good as a one-of in the build to help us get to our copy of Obsidian. We then play a single copy of Set Rotation. Set Rotation is also really good in the deck to help us get a copy of Obsidian on the field, but also help us get our other field spells in this deck onto the field. We then play a single copy of Pressured Planet. Pressured Planet is the other field spell we play for our copy of Set Rotation, so we can basically search out our Kashtira cards, because this card is basically Rota for your Kashtira cards, which is absolutely amazing. We then play 3 copies of Obsidian. Obsidian is such a powerful field spell and so cool to actually play in this deck, as this card has the ability to face up special summon monsters your opponent controls become Pyro during your turn only, which works really well with a bunch of our Ashen cards and also works really well with Super Polymerization. This card also has the ability that during your end phase, you can actually target an Obsidian in your graveyard and place it on the bottom of the deck, and then you draw a card, and if this card in the field zone is destroyed or banished, you can actually special summon an Ashen monster directly from your deck, which is a great effect to be able to use with our copy of Vados. We then play 3 copies of Extinguishing the Ashened. This card is definitely a 3-of in the build, because this card actually helps us fusion summon in this deck. This card lets us send a Dark Pyro monster from our deck to the graveyard, then you can add a level 5 or higher Pyro monster from our graveyard to our hand, but for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extract except Pyro monsters, which is a key card effect on this card that you basically want to go in for all of your different Kashtira plays and all of your Link plays before you actually go in for this card effect, and make this card one of the last cards you activate in your hand in case you want to go in for other plays. But this card is still really good in the deck as a 3-of, as it also has a really cool ability that you can actually banish this card from the graveyard to be able to fusion summon a Pyro fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as material, basically being a polymerization by banishing this card from the graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Awakening of Vados. Awakening of Vados is definitely a 3-of as well. This card lets you place an Obsidian from your deck face up in either player's field spell zone. Then, if your opponent controls a card in their field spell zone, you can actually add a level 5 or higher Dark Pyro monster from your deck to your hand. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the deck or the extra deck except for Pyro monsters, which is not that big of a deal because again, you just go for your Kashtira plays first. We then play 3 copies of Bonfire. Bonfire is basically Rota for this deck, so we can search out our copy of Priestess and then go from Priestess to any of the other Ashen monsters that we want. So this card is definitely a 3-of in the build. We then also play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization works really well with our copy of Obsidian because it does turn monsters into Pyro monsters, making it super easy to go in for the exact plays we need. This card also outs Vados on our opponent's side of the field, which is really nice, and other monsters our opponent might have, and this card is still one of the best board breakers in the entire game. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing just 2 and starting off with Ashened for Eternity. Ashened for Eternity is really good as a 1-of in the deck because you can get to this card really easy with your copy of Vados. And this card has the ability, when this card is activated, you can actually add a copy of Vados or an Ashen monster from your graveyard to your hand. You can also target a face-up monster your opponent controls that you own and take control of that monster. Then you can make all face-up monsters your opponent currently control lose attack equal to the targeted monster's original attack, which is a really cool effect because it's basically just going to take your copy of Vados back. And this attack change lasts until the end of this turn, which is an insane effect to be able to use with your copy of Vados because it has 2,800 attack points. We then play a single copy of Ashened to Endlessness. Ashened to Endlessness is definitely a one-of in the build as well to be able to use with your copy of Vados. I mean, this card is just really good to be able to use with Vados, because this card has the ability during the main phase, you can fusion summon a Pyrofusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as material, including a copy of Vados. And if you do, it gains 500 attack for each material used, which is an insane effect to help us step into our copy of Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness. This card also has a really cool ability that you can actually banish this card and a Dark Pyro monster from your graveyard, and all monsters that your opponent currently controls become Pyro until the end of the turn, which is a really cool effect to just change the type up on your opponent, which really might mess up their place, but also works really well with their copy of Super Poly. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness. This card is such a powerful boss monster. It's one of my favorite artworks in the entire game. This card looks phenomenal. This card has the ability to take a copy of Vados plus 2 level 9 or lower Pyro monsters to make this card. It also has the ability cannot be destroyed by card effects, and also your opponent cannot target it with monster effects. And if this card is fusion summon, you destroy all spells and traps that your opponent controls, and when your opponent activates a card effect on the field, quick effect, you can send a face-up Ashen card you control to the graveyard and destroy that card, which is a really cool effect on this big 3000 attack point monster. We then play 2 copies of Embers of the Ashen. This card is one of our main Super Poly targets because it just requires any 2 Pyro monsters to make this card, and this card is absolutely amazing in this deck. This card has the ability, if this card is fusion summon, you can actually target a field spell in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And at the start of the damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's Pyro monster, destroy that opponent's monster. And if you do, this turn, this card can make a second attack in a row, which is such a powerful effect to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Garua. Garua is a really good Super Poly target as well in the deck, just in case you need to make this card. We then also play a single copy of Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon is really good as an additional Super Poly target in the deck. We then play a single copy of Baguska. Baguska is just really good in the deck as a 1-of, just in case we need to slow down the game. 1 copy of Infernal Flame Banshee, because it basically just searches out the exact monster we need, so this card is really good as a 1-of in the deck. We then also play a single copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac. This card is great for the Cash Cherry engine, so it helps us step into a copy of Heat Soul, which is really good in this build. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is just amazing in the deck overall because it works in just about any deck, and it's just a really powerful card in just about any build, especially if you get to go second in this deck. You want to be able to have access to Typhon. We then play a single copy of Access Code because it comes out absolutely massive and can pop multiple cards on the field. 1 copy of Heat Soul for the Dracosac combo because this card is really easy to make in the deck by just summoning out 2 Cashtira monsters or 2 level 7s to your side of the field. You basically make a copy of Dracosac, and once you do, you make 2 copies of Link Spider and then G-Golem Crystal Heart using the 2 copies of your Link Spiders, and then you step into Heat Soul, which is going to give you a draw every turn as long as it lasts with your copy of Vados lurking. It doesn't last very long, but it's still really good to help you draw into the deck. We also play a single copy of G-Golem Crystal Heart. G-Golem is just really good in the deck overall to be able to step into your copy of your Heat Soul. And then we play 2 copies of Link Spider to round out the extra deck. You play these cards for the copies of the Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac tokens, because you basically, again, summon out your copy of Dracosac, summon out the 2 tokens, make 2 copies of this, link them both away for your copy of G-Golem. Then once you do, use G-Golem to bring back a copy of Link Spider, and then you link away the G-Golem and one of the Link Spiders that you brought back for your copy of your Heat Soul, and then you get a draw every turn that it lasts on the field at just the cost of 1,000 life points, or you can step into a copy of Access Code, which makes you a really big boss monster, especially since you have a fire, water, and an earth in the graveyard to be able to pop cards on the field. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played an Ashen deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's really fun to be able to play, especially with the Cash Cherry engine in this deck, because it's so easy to board wipe the field and then summon out the Cash Cherry monsters to your side of the field. And it's just really fun overall, especially with how amazing this artwork is for this deck. So, that's going to be this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.